All right. Welcome, everybody. This is episode 48 of the World Blockchain Roundtable. This week's topic, we are going to be discussing blockchain tribalism. Got some great questions. So our host today, we've got Joe, the architect and founder of Dragonchain, Satoshi Shan, entrepreneur and everyone's friend, and Dave from 10 Social, and I am Greg from Rivet. I will be doing the talking today. So, quick update on World Blockchain Roundtable Lair ownership tokens. Our distribution from last week is as follows. Each host from last week will receive 95 lot, and each topic contributor from last week will receive 41 lot. The theme suggested by Bit by the Coin will receive 41 lot, and these ownership tokens will always come with perpetual passive income, free edits, and governance votes. So the other thing is we've got May theme suggestions out there for your vote. So go out and into the governance section on Den and check it out and place your votes. There's some really great topics. I've already picked one that I'm particularly fond of. So definitely go out and do that because there's some great options and we need to decide between them. So I guess we're on to current events.
Yes. By the way, I haven't decided yet either. I need to look through and see what, if anybody has an idea of what the most exciting content would be, because I'm like, there's a bunch in there that would be pretty cool, but anyway.
Okay, and I'm gonna try again with the echo problem I have. Sorry, I like 1 out of 4 times I come in with an echo issue.
It's all right. You're a little quiet right now, but
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, you are usually quiet. Good morning to everyone. Good morning, everyone in the chat.
Good morning.
I am
Good
where I
morning.
am. I'm in Texas too, there, everybody.
So current events wise,
on.
what are you guys paying attention to?
Well, what do you think about the poison pill?
The poison pill. It's so obvious what they're doing to me. And for folks who aren't familiar with what the poison pill refers to, this is the Twitter board, basically positioning themselves to dilute any shares that are purchased by Elon Musk or any other party over 15%, which would make someone a controlling interest in the company. But this was done in response to Elon Musk making an offer to buy the entire company. To buy all of the outstanding shares, and he was going to buy them at $54.20 a share. He threw in a 420 reference, of course, because it's Elon Musk, and he may have even been referencing May by the 5 because that was a relatively arbitrary suggestion too. But that said, it is still an offer that beats their value like 95% of its history. So it's a really, really good offer for shareholders. And the fact that they implemented a poison pill suggests that there is some other agenda behind this. And I think we all know what that agenda is. Like, it's kind of staring everybody in the face pretty obviously.
I had a question I wanted to ask you specifically, Greg.
Yeah.
From the lawyer standpoint, one of the things that they wanted to do in getting Musk to be on the board was because he would have to sign a bunch of paperwork saying that they could control him.
Yeah.
Basically, he wouldn't be allowed to tweet anything because he would have to behave in a way that was positive for Twitter. Couldn't do anything to hurt Twitter, harm Twitter, or the stockholders.
Right.
Isn't what they're doing with the poison pill technically going against that that way of thinking, because it's hurting the shareholders at the bottom line?
Well, this is based on a legal concept called fiduciary duty. So when you are a shareholder or a manager of a company, you have a responsibility to the people who own interest in it monetarily to not do things that hurt that money value. And that's really the key. Is it's not any other kind of harm. Like, you can make a company controversial, and if that makes the company more valuable, then what you're doing is helping the price. And if you're doing that, then it's helpful. But I think what they're worried about, and I think one of the things that is making them want to hold on to this is, if Elon Musk is on the inside and he can see what's going on, and he says anything about what they're doing, one thing that he said he would do would be open source the algorithm, right? This is dangerous to these people, because if they've been up to shenanigans that paint them in an ugly light, which I think everybody can see.
I think you hit it. I think that's kind of where it's at, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what, the most, to me, that's what makes the most sense is, no one ever planned for a lot of things to be public, to be open for everyone to see really how things are run and how decisions are made and who's making them and what sorts of criteria there is for certain thresholds of censorship, and how it's applied, whether evenly or not, whether it's applied to certain demographics over others, whether all of that stuff seems like kind of nuclear. And I could see that being an issue with people that have invested interest in keeping it working that way.
We're talking about a company that kicked the sitting president of the United States off of their platform, but did not kick off some of this country's
ISIS members,
stated adversaries.
Taliban,
what?
Yeah, I was keeping
those conversations would be exposed.
Yeah, it was weird. I was keeping up with on the ground status of what was happening from the Taliban's perspective on Twitter, and that was fine. That was totally fine. And even I really dislike Donald Trump personally. I'm not a pro-Trump guy, but I still think removing the president from Twitter is dude, I don't care if you like what he's saying.
Well, I would even think that would be if I were a Twitter stockholder, and I am not, that would have been something that should have been complained about. Is that an enormous amount of their volume of their traffic came from having that person on there. Now, real quick,
I think he made that relative.
Points. Yeah. That there was about the poison pill, and I don't know what's possible, but it seems like there'd be many workarounds for that. It's pretty lame, but that as an example, he tweeted "Love me tender," and some people were talking about the potential that he was going to buy people's stock directly. They could set up a consortium where you'd have a whole bunch of people that would own less than the 15% that would trigger that, whatever, and they would all just work in collusion. Yeah. And the other side that's really weird to me that I have my assumption on Jack's responses, which I am not a fan of Jack for being the CEO, but maybe he had no control. That's one of the things. It's maybe he was just being on the down low just to hold, whatever. But my side is maybe he got pissed being a 2% holder or whatever it is. Maybe he got pissed monetarily. Is what the hell are you guys doing? I would have taken that money and get the hell out of here, right? And maybe he can afford to cut off his beard and and live his life out and do whatever else he would want to do. But that was weird stuff.
That's just the partial hippie in him. The self-described partial hippie side.
Some of that stuff surprised me. Like,
I feel like the thing that it makes the case for, like watching his response, like boards have one power ultimately. They can change management, right? Mm-hmm. They can fire the existing CEO. And I'm guessing for a long time, Jack's silence on some of the things that he claimed to be strong on earlier on, came a lot from the fact that they could get rid of him if they wanted to. And if you look at this list of people who are controlling Twitter right now, I mean, first off, almost no shares are owned between them. Elon Musk tweeted that out.
Yeah, less than 1%. Right.
Yeah, less than 1% of the company is held by the people on the board. So they have no financial interest in making a good deal. Like their interests are in fact misaligned with the company.
In fact, yeah, they would probably
not just surprising. That was shocking to me.
Yeah,
me too.
Well, I mean, when you look at who they are, like these are people who have a strong incentive to maintain the other power that they have as the board, and that's structuring the whole thing to be a narrative control architecture, right? Like,
right.
These are former members of the intelligence community. These are Saudi royals. These are British lords. Like, I mean, people who are really not obviously interested in this company as a money-making vehicle for the people who invested in it.
I saw some. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to tie together all this stuff because I do think I saw your note that essentially this is related to the topic of today on tribalism. That at least everything I'm seeing, it looks very much like the people that control, or I don't know what the word would be, own Facebook, Twitter, Google, all the big platforms that are out there that have centralized the internet as much as they could, don't like what's going on. And frankly, if you look at what happened in the Bitcoin forking episode years ago and other matters since, a lot of those same powers, or whoever the hell they are, put a lot of money into keeping us all divided, and that's what all this is. And essentially, that's it's just
Roger was. We're supposed to be on the show. I was bugging him to come on. We wanted to have Roger Ver on the show today for Tribalism because he is kind of, as well as like when Lisa, the stuff that she had happen to her recently, is kind of another level of that, which we had talked about and we'll probably go into today. But Roger said that he would like to come on, but he's taking a break from social media because of tribalism. I mean, when you look at, like you said, Joseph,
perfect episode, yeah.
Yes, I said it was a perfect episode. But like Joseph, before the show started, that everything that has happened and the way everyone like attacked him, can you imagine being that person and a space like social media being so toxic that you just have to completely shut off and get away from it, even when it's something like that's perfect, that it's like you really should have a voice in this discussion.
That's the intent. That's why they do that, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, and I don't know if you guys, I was on Twitter starting around 2014. I don't know how early you guys got on it, but I remember a point because my account started off as a science news account specifically focused on highlighting research advancements in biotech that had to do with progress we're making in biogerontology and the medicine around human aging, like the idea that we could push that back further was being borne out in a lot of this research that we were seeing progress on, and we continue to see progress on it today. But starting around 2006, I couldn't say any of that stuff anymore and have it get traction. Like I went from 2014 to 2016, I went from 0 followers to 800 and some odd followers because people like to see this science news, especially on this topic. Mm-hmm. And then, 2016, something changed, and it took up until this year for me to cross the 1,000 point. saying a whole bunch of different things. But because I abandoned that topic as soon as I realized every time I said something, I was going to lose 10 followers and not gain them back. They didn't want people posting research papers. That was the weirdest part about it.
Can I tell you something? Posting research something crazy that's an absolute truth. I've not analyzed it on Twitter. I've been on Twitter since 2007 because a friend and I joined because we thought it was stupid. And we thought, let's see how stupid this is. We joined, right? And I didn't pick a better account handle that I could sell later. It's dumb. But either way, on Reddit, you could watch like new posts, in particular on the Donald, where they were manipulating everything, and you could actually see that programmatically, if there was a legitimate posting, or at least fitting for the community, right? That the voting would self-reconcile. That you could vote it up and it'd get voted down. You could vote it down and it was just so funny because it was immediate. It was programmatic and automated, and so the entire all of them are like that, and Twitter does that too. I've seen the same stuff with followers where if I get more, they'll get cut back and they'll get more, and it's like maybe I do say something and people really do actively say, oh, unsubscribe, but I don't know.
That's what I figure it is. It's like I say a bunch of stupid shit. I know that, so it's like, oh yeah, probably unfollow me. I would,
Yeah.
So
I don't know. People do want drama though, so a lot of
Yeah, I don't think it is that. I think number one, people want drama, and number two, people just don't care. I think enough to unfollow.
Yeah.
Like I've talked about before. I think what was the censorship episode? But it was with Beatles. Crypto Beatles was like the biggest influencer. He had like all the tons of commercials were before every show. He had this massive following until like 2018, till like about a year and a half ago. He started to shift a little bit from just crypto blockchain to free speech, political, that kind of stuff. Because it was just like, he's like, oh, I have this platform with, hundreds of thousands of people that listen to me. I should just mention this. And then I should have someone on. And then his whole channel got cut off, YouTube threw it out. But he still had Twitter. And here, his Twitter account just got killed about 2 months ago, and
I didn't know that.
A month ago.
Wow.
But in the end, it was like me and maybe two other people that were seeing his posts and liking his posts, which is ridiculous. And he still had, I think, like 140,000 followers or something on Twitter, which had been dramatically cut. But when you see that many followers and 2 likes, 1 comment, it's obvious, that it's being manipulated. And he since has started Pilled, which is another social media site, which is really growing. You can check it out, pilled.com. And a lot of other stuff that he's been doing. But like my friend Rice mentioned, that these alternative social media sites and alternatives now, which I Am has been just making great points in the chat, that tribalism leads to the building of parallel systems, which ultimately expands division. I think that's a stage that it has to go through, because like I was saying, my friend Rice said, these alternatives really are just echo chambers. Like you can go on certain ones and you're just going to hear conservative stuff. I mean, it's like listening to NPR. You know what you're getting. You know what I mean? You know what you're getting. But I think eventually, if those are going to be successful, they will grow. And then
wait a minute, aren't we all paying for NPR? Isn't that the everyman's channel? Wait a minute, Sean. What are you saying?
I bet everyman doesn't even know what it is, or where to find it.
It's usually in the low numbers on the dial. 98, 90, 96 point something, 80, 89 maybe.
Yep.
I think here there are like 4 or 5 of them that I
Just turn it until you hear
come
somebody
through.
close talking into a padded microphone, and you'll be on it.
They got pretty good programming here, but it's
this week on
Yes.
Roblox.
That's Saturday Night
I do
Live.
this, and I'm going to talk about coffee. It's like,
Sweetie ball.
yeah. That's a
You
good.
missed
That's a
your
good
calling,
impersonation.
Greg.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we should. That's how the World Blockchain Roundtable intro should go.
Well, welcome to the World
welcome to the
Blockchain
show
Roundtable.
today.
Sorry, that's awesome.
But also, I am for I am was talking about free Assange and that Trump must be a globalist for not pardoning him. I want to say this. Like I'm on board here with Dave. I'm not a huge Trump fan. I don't think Trump is the Messiah. I do think he was a lot better president than what we have now.
Oh God,
Um,
you could put a broom with a wig on it up there, and it'd do better
yeah,
right now.
but I think he had a. I think he had the right idea on so many things, but his problem in the end is that he stopped being a dick, and I always said during his presidency, everyone's like, because it's like everyone's like, oh, Barack Obama did this, and well, Trump's doing this, well, Obama did this, and it's always just like it's okay for, and I came to a realization this week that I wanted to bring up. But people are like, it's okay for us to do wrong and my team to do wrong because your team did wrong over here. It's
Yeah.
like, no, if it's wrong, it's wrong.
It's still tribalism.
It's very related to like whataboutism and stuff like that.
You have a uniparty that pretend like they are two parts, so they can say, oh, but those guys. And can I tell you something? That's why when McAfee ran, and I told him this when when McAfee ran, I gave him Bitcoin because he accepted Bitcoin. He's like, awesome. So I gave him Bitcoin. And I was going to prove it to someone at one point. So I went to the Federal Election Commission site to look it up because they report those numbers. And like, it didn't show up. It didn't get reported. I gave him Bitcoin. It didn't get reported. It was over $300, $400, whatever it was. Anyway, it was so funny. But I thought, because, and I think it's grown since then. I'm more confident that this is true now than it was then. I don't think that the system as it is, at least in the United States, is fixable. That we have a constitution, which is kind of like like what you would describe the royalty in most European countries, where it is just figurehead. Mm-hmm. The Constitution is the equivalent of, because we don't have a monarchy, of a figurehead. It's not actually honored. What is honored is this bureaucracy that you can't control and that nobody can control unless they are someone like a Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or other people.
I think it is relevant, but after the fact.
Yeah.
It's like it has to go to the Supreme Court.
I call bullshit. The Supreme Court is owned. Yeah, and you have a freaking they just nominated a pedo judge that made it through as well. If you're trying to tell me that the Chief Justice isn't owned, it's very obvious.
Yeah,
what you just said is not a biologist. It could go all the way up.
As soon as she said that should have been the end of the conversation. It's like,
well,
I'm not going
to. In fairness, guys,
you're going to rule on women's.
You look at the history, and I'm not talking about the history that's been discussed in the media recently. Look at the history. And we're not going to go into it on this show.
The history. Let's be completely fair. Let's be completely fair, because right now you can be nailed for production and sharing of child pornography in some cases if you are a kid on Snapchat, right?
You're talking about the narrative. This is the media narrative that shit doesn't matter. Look at her history. Right. And look at her history compared to or alongside all of the things that have been going on in her very recent past, and it's obvious why she was nominated. I'm not going to go into that.
Trump. But I think in the end, I think that Trump should have pardoned Assange, and he should have pardoned Ross.
Yeah,
and I think that he didn't.
And Snowden,
right? And I think that he didn't because he was trying to play ball.
Well, see, there's the question.
With those people. Honestly, you're going to piss off the police with Ross, which is a huge part of his base. You're going to piss off the intelligence community with Assange. And
6 Ways to Sunday, they can get back at you.
So, yeah, I think he was trying to throw them a little bone. And I don't think I think he should have continued to do what he has done and just be a dick. I would during his presidency, I would say if I had a barbecue, I think I would invite Obama, maybe not Trump. I think that if Obama would be cool to hang out and play basketball with. And I think Trump, if I said I didn't like his tie, he would make fun of my mother on Twitter.
I don't think he'd have to make fun of his tie for that.
But when it comes to being a president, it's complete. He was doing some good shit.
Well,
I think he was trying to get
story. But my McAfee story was basically that we needed that human Molotov cocktail, and I didn't expect it to be Trump. And then I thought, holy crap, that's why I was a Trump supporter, because he was our only chance to get in there and shake shit up.
Exactly, he was
and make some stuff happen, and at least with some resettlement, you might get some improvements.
But he did.
His answer about the Assange stuff doesn't compute. He didn't have it when Candace Owens in that interview asked him about Assange. He didn't have an answer, and it didn't make any sense. And it was like that. I still don't.
I don't think he understands. This is maybe I'm naive, but I don't think
you're right.
I think he was trying to play ball, like Sean said, but I think he was trying to get into that tier of move up the ladder. There's this whole shadow government. I think he wanted to be part of that. That's my read. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that the Assange thing. I don't think he cared. The stuff that maybe requires a bit of. I don't think there's much integrity with the man. I think that what Joe said is true, that he wasn't part of the plan. That's why I voted for him once and not the second time. I was like, of all the options, put that fucker in there, sure, let's see what happens.
We're all sitting 20 years from now, you're going to look back and you're going to say, holy shit, that one person had more of an effect worldwide across the board than any other human being since you could go back quite a ways, maybe Caesar. It's like every single subject for years centered around that one person. And it was like that. It's just such an odd thing in history to see someone like that. That's why I don't know. It's a very interesting subject, but you look at it.
The shit show that followed, everything, and it's today still. He doesn't help. With that, he's very doing rallies and shit, and he's going to run for president or whatever. But you're right, weird. Everything was about Trump, even if it wasn't.
Right, but the fact remains. The fact remains that he was the elected president, and we kicked him off.
Look on YouTube, and whatever the story is, it's blah 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 Trump. Just put it in the title of everything on YouTube, because it didn't have anything to do with Trump. Can
we experiment with it? Can we change the title of this show to something Trump, and we'll see what we get?
The World Block Trump Roundtable.
Oh God.
Sorry.
The World Blockchain Round Trump. You can keep the acronym.
Yeah, I mean, it stuff on. I mean, it caused. And by the way, it caused a lot of people that otherwise would have called BS if you said that they censor everything on Reddit. Now all know it and they all believe it. I mean, in all truth, he exposed that. He exposed Twitter. He exposed, and Musk is continuing along.
And there's the relation to what's going on right now. Is that's how I feel about with Musk and Twitter and what Musk is doing, lifting the veil. Trump was part of it. The pandemic was part of it. This shit on Twitter is part of it, where more and more and more people are losing the excuse they have of, I didn't know that was going on, right? More and more, it's no, you do. You're starting to see it, aren't you?
Do you guys know anybody that does not like Musk or thinks that he's a horrible person? I don't care.
For some reason, some of the writers on Zero Hedge still have it up their ass about him. I think it's because there are too many people on there who are not admitting that they've got a sticker of Calvin peeing on either the Ford or the Chevy logo on the back of their truck, and they just don't like the idea of an electric car. But
the short selling stuff is a big thing, and with all of the automakers, right?
I know there's a lot of
Tesla
people
survived that, and they're still not happy. So
there's a lot of Elizabeth Warren followers in that town. And so I know a lot of people, not necessarily Musk as a like individually, but the billionaire narrative, that regurgitation of billion. It's like Orange Man bad,
Because
but then like take out Orange Man and put in billionaire
they
bad.
think people are too stupid to understand what wealth is, right?
Well, some are though.
To
be fair, there's an education problem in this country.
Scrooge McDuck style money bin that he can just jump into and swim around in. They don't realize that like he's a billionaire on paper because most of that's invested in the companies that he owns.
That's why he had to dump so much stock to be able to pay taxes. Like, fine, you want taxes? Let me just dump on the market, I guess. Is that what you want?
And it visibly hurt Tesla's share price, and everybody saw it happen. I think everybody knows exactly what she's talking about.
And like, thus, that's why I'm talking about. And if you guys ever had watched the human Molotov cocktail, it was a little campaign segment for that they assembled from what's his name? The producer of what's his name? I can't remember. Where he basically gave a speech trying to tell his supporters what Trump is to people that disagree with them, right? And so he and someone took that and put it against some good music and made a campaign commercial out of it that was, in my opinion, the best campaign commercial I've ever seen. It was amazing, but he calls him the human Molotov cocktail, and that's what people wanted, and that's what's needed.
Still want that.
Because you think about this, you think about that alone. The fact that that he had to do that is exposing how broken the system is.
You're talking about the guy, the inconvenient truth guy,
Michael Moore.
Michael Moore.
Yeah.
Well, if I had the money to put a campaign together for myself, like Trump did, right? And I ran on, I'm just going to arbitrarily declassify everything. You know,
you would be
first day one, I'm going to walk in there, I'm going to issue a declassification order, and then I'm going to spend the rest of my time demanding that people issue me classified reports in high detail about what they're doing, and then I'm immediately going to turn around and declassify them. Someone would get elected on that. Like, I would vote for somebody whose only goal was to expose what our government is really doing.
The problem is they would also get killed. I mean, the problem is they would also get killed. They would, unless they had their own security detail, which is a lot of the theory around how Trump survived, by the way.
Right. I mean, I feel like right now what people really want is to understand what the fuck they're doing, what the fuck they're doing with all that money, what the fuck's going on in administrative agencies. I think people want to know what the hell, and somebody who seems to be a likely person to do that, regardless of the blowback on them, is somebody who's going to get a lot of attention, a lot of traction. I think that's exactly why Trump was so popular, because people saw in him a potential wrecking ball to go in and sort of strip the wolf of its sheep's clothing and show us the wolf.
Yep.
And it did not. I mean, that's ultimately where he didn't live up to his promise, right? Like, that said,
a lot of us were hoping that was the second term. At the very least, that there would be some room there to do something with the head start that we got in the first term. But this is the truth from I am for I am. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Is it not? I mean, this is basically my my thesis for the past few years, is that people need to stop doing this shit and stop talking about the numbers, because that slows it too. And I've seen that, I know that. I'm in the middle. The people say, "Oh, you're full of it, Joe. You're blaming it on the community." I'm in there every day when I talk to people. I have to get them centered on the technology instead of the price, when I'm trying to get something real to happen. And
it's like I don't want to like poo-poo on religion, but it's like there's a similarity with like dogma and sort of like religious tribalism, and look at the like scientific adoption curve and the rise of Christianity stomping down science for a little while, a long time ago. And then now it's kind of like this, my blockchain is, it's like a religious war between people's perceived, like, this is the truth, that's the truth.
Well, I'll even say
I like how you use the word war. This is something I came to the realization of this week.
Yeah.
And it's bad. And I've always been the one that has been saying the very inconvenient truths about how bad things are and how I don't really have a lot of hope. Because if you're a student of history, you know how this pans out. You know what's coming. And it's bloody, and it's destructive, and it's terrible. And that's how it goes. And I've said a million times, the only difference is that we have crypto this time around. The people have one of the pillars of what evil uses in its campaign against good. So it could be different, but when you have tribalism and this us versus them, this division that we have throughout the world, and we've seen it just explode to where it's everything. It's not just race. It's masks. It's a piece of cloth on your face. It's where people will, grandmas will fight gang members about it. I mean, it's insane.
Right. Or like some old lady in a park will mace a couple in the face over it. Right?
How divided we are. We are in a war. And like Joe said, we've allowed the Constitution to become a figurehead. And I think all this has happened since Alex Jones. I think, most sane people were like, no, this is wrong. And it's like, no, it's Alex Jones. No, it's free speech. No, this is your rights. This is no. It's look, I understand, but it's not attack on free speech, just Alex Jones. And I was saying, dude, if you hate the dude, it doesn't matter, because if they could do it to him, and that's what has allowed bad things to happen throughout history. If they allow it to happen to them, it can happen to you.
Right.
And everyone has always said, no, this is different.
Yeah, if they can cancel the sitting president, who's a billionaire, probably the most popular man on earth, from all social media, they can probably do that to you.
No one would have believed that. Right. But I think now we're in it's a war, because in our country, the United States was not set up to exist the way that it does, to exist where, hey, you shouldn't do that. Well, your guy did that. No, it's just, no, it's not supposed to happen. And
right. A ball gag for a ball gag leaves the whole world mute, kind of.
Yeah, it can't work. That's why the Constitution doesn't work. That's why things are so broken, is because whenever I think Jones was moved on, that was the gauntlet being thrown. And now we just need to admit, hey, we're in a war. We need to fight.
This started a little before Alex Jones. I think
that was the big one.
Woodrow Wilson. You can even maybe go back to Lincoln, but there's some stuff that happened way back. The Fed, the creation of the income tax.
Yeah, but
basically, let's throw all those rules out there, because it doesn't matter, because there's a war that we have to fight. There's a war. We have to do this.
Yeah, so that's a really good point. This is really not new for our country, right? Like this type of behavior being seen in the modern era with digital platforms is just the same pattern, written again in a new part of history.
So. I think it's gotten worse, dude.
It's definitely gotten worse.
Well, it's either gotten worse, or
there are families that won't sit together at Christmas and at Thanksgiving because of someone's political ideology.
Well, they haven't started.
But that also, think about the Civil War, though. Like, we had literally family members shooting each other to death.
Exactly. Yeah, I think not since then.
But like what Sean was just saying about, now we have crypto. We now have the internet too, and we now have a phone in our pocket, and we now have this amplifying access to everything all at the same time globally, and that's that's what's different now too. Here's
the thing: that what's so important about this subject for this show today, and we should probably have a 3-hour show, is that that they are, and if you don't think so, it's obvious. People would have said, no, they can't control the internet. It's the freaking internet. It's decentralized. Guess what? They fucking control the internet, guys. They could cancel anybody they want. They can, and if they can't cancel it at the level where they can own it and get to the servers, they can go all the way to the domain system. They can go, there are so many things that are built into the infrastructure that are not decentralized.
Right.
And you can look at Infinity Chan, how it was canceled. It was canceled through a collusion. And it's like, and it blew my mind that it wasn't a bigger subject when it happened. Not
they can cut the power grid if they really want to.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you don't think that they're doing the same thing and haven't already made great strides in crypto, you're crazy. You could look back at the Bitcoin fork. There's obvious what was going on with censorship back then on Reddit that was blown off. Is like, but to me, it was an engineering question. It wasn't about politics, but to some people, it was about power, right? And it was about way more than what's the proper thing to do with the actual software. It was about the power, and there was a ton of money that flowed in at that point, and that's when I started to feel like, holy shit, this doesn't feel anymore like the culture that it was, where it was an open source, liberty focused project, and everybody in it was in it for that. There were some people that were in it, was like, holy crap, this could be worth a lot of money, but they were all of the feel that this is a decentralized awakening of the world where software, and I always say that the blockchain itself and cryptocurrency is essentially software encapsulating economic principles in a way that is transparent for once, instead of it being a central authority that gets to choose, here's how the money works, that this is a way that we can all look at and you can judge. And that's why I love multiple chains. That's what forever. It's like, yes, we should have Bitcoin, which might be controlled by the money interests now. I don't know. It depends on how you take it. You could have all these other projects and I get to choose which one I'm going to use or adopt or whatever else. And absolutely. And I think probably a great deal, there's a lot obviously of pump and dump from moneyed interests or people who are just in it to make money that it's like, oh, here's a new network that's cheaper than Ethereum. Let's run it. Let's make a bunch of money. There's some obvious incentive there, but there's a lot on the other side that if you look at socials, especially back Bitcoin fork days and early Ethereum days, and even up through 2018, 2019, I was even attacked by some of the they are different than what I call the yellow pants brigade, that are all the Bitcoin Max Kaiser and those guys. These guys were like young guys that had red pants in their profile pictures, and you'd never see them anywhere, but they would always be there to attack someone with non-engineering. It's like I make an engineering point and they'll come in and make something that is just, it doesn't even make any sense, but they're there to attack. They're paid. And there was some analysis.
They're going to come at you with a non sequitur no matter what you say.
They're all paid to do this stuff, and it's an easy thing to do on social media because it's not, there's no scarcity. They can make as many tweets as they want. They can get on Telegram, make as many posts as they want because, somebody's paying them to do it.
A tempest in a teapot real damn fast by just paying a bot farm to focus on one tweet, Yep. And anyway. That's a service you can buy, by the way, if you've ever looked it up and you want to
it's on Fiverr.
some unofficial trouble. Go on Fiverr. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And point them to a link. And you can for $10 have hundreds of thousands of people artificially boosting something that gets said.
We should make sure in this, and I don't know if it's hard to do, but we can declare the problems, but we should try to say, what are some possible solutions? Because there's some.
I'm into that. Things, so it's important to do that too.
I think we're at the point now where I think the solution is war. I think the solution is.
Well, I think the solution, there's a bunch of solutions for a bunch of things, but if I had to boil down the solution to some general thing, there's a few. There's an education issue, right? Which I was talking yesterday. Flo actually came on coffee, just like you suggested, Sean. So thanks for that. And he's great. Talking to Flo yesterday was great, and we talked a little bit about. We talked about a lot of things, but education is an issue, and that's going to be more of an issue when these kids are adults. But then the idea that the other citizens, the other civilians are your enemy because you fundamentally disagree, and that's not okay. It's not okay to fundamentally disagree with your neighbor. Like, when was that? When did it become, I can't hang out with people I disagree with anymore. I can't be friends with people who hold a different ideology than me anymore. Right. And if I ever have something I'm pissed off about that's wrong, it's their fault. And it's not the people actually running the show's fault. It's just other civilians, my neighbor's fault.
I think it's part. I think the education
thing, divide and conquer, of course.
I think the education thing is right, but I think that we've lost. That's the point. That, like,
we can develop a strong allergy to divide and rule, though. Like, if we detect divide and rule, we should strike back.
For years now, for decades, and I think that's one of the biggest things that I can see that young people have been taught. It's that the term toxic can be applied to just disagree with you, and then you've got to cut that out of your life, whether it's family, whether it's whatever. Cut that out of your life. Well, you don't deal with it.
And also,
that people, like, I have friends that are assholes because I've been friends with them for so long. And it's like, why are you friends with that guy? It's like, because he's my friend.
Yeah.
You know, and then I'll tell him, you're an asshole. Stop being an asshole. But
that's what people need, though. They need to have friends that disagree with them. So,
but we've allowed it friends right now where, like Tommy says, that, which I didn't know that Assange was actually leaving now. He's being extradited now, right now. He's going to be Epsteined or McAfee'd. I mean, these are terms that we now use because we've accepted it. I mean, I made this point that when people said Epstein didn't kill himself, when that was a meme, every meme that someone put up, every time someone said it, in a joking way, they were saying, I understand how bad the system is. I understand there's a shadow government. I understand that someone that was in the custody of the government at one of the highest levels of security, someone just went in there and either killed him or took him out. That's a huge admission. And when we get to that point, we acknowledge how messed up the system is. It's not fixable anymore. I just don't think it is.
Or maybe it's getting there because it's the same thing. Like Joe said a minute ago about, like, let's talk about some of the problems in tribalism, but let's talk about some of the solutions too. I get something I can't get past a lot, and this is very true of what I've experienced in tribalism and maximalism and stuff. But it's also true with what I said earlier about just everyday stuff that people, blame their neighbor for. It's like somebody will come to me and they'll yell at me and scream at me. I assume in words on the internet, they'll type at me about how much they hate what I'm doing and how shitty it is and how stupid it is and how it should be better, but it's not, And that I can talk to those people. That's fine. But, like, cool. All right. So you see problems. Awesome. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? You want to do something about it? No, I just want to yell at you. No, I just want to tell you how shitty you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and well, there's a certain degree of that.
The solutions are, and so like what you were talking about, Sean, with people stamping on the bottom from their brewery, stamping on the bottom of the beer can for every package you send out, Epstein didn't kill himself. All of these kind of acknowledgments of, like, yeah, you're right, he didn't. At some point, like, don't you think there's some sort of mass effect where people might start thinking about what we can do about it, and maybe might start thinking about how our neighbors aren't the real enemy and things like that? Is there just a threshold we haven't reached that we're approaching?
Right. Well, and I think as a good segue, guys,
the only thing that's going to fix it now is the 3%ers are going to meet in the pubs and make the plans.
I think this starts as just a good segue, guys, with questions, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to ask questions, and we have to sort of engage with them in a way that is more open-minded than we would oftentimes give ourselves the leeway to do. Like, not so much worry about how people will perceive our answers, but to really ask them. And at that, I think we should dive into some questions.
I agree.
So, I'm going to start by just jumping back in here, and we'll read Jacob Wayne's. Okay, question is, Why is it that Web3, with Web3, we can unite and own the internet together, yet a lot of blockchains and coins still have this us versus them mentality aimed at other Web3 projects? There's too much friendly fire going on.
This stings me. This stings me to say to you people, but I will say it. 100% of the reason is number go up. That is the truth. That is what drives tribalism. There is no one that is like my coin is better than yours because of tech. It really doesn't happen. It's all about making money and seeing your bags grow. When it comes to tribalism,
there are a few very good-looking Dragonchain fans that would disagree with you on that. But
I would disagree a little bit too. Actually, I wanted to say,
but I know what you mean.
In the tribalism argument, though, it's really just to kind of attack the other coin, because in the end they just want their number to go up. And I Am For I Am is on fire today. He's talking about tribalism, and one of the good examples of I think effect is how many people are like leaving California for Florida, Texas, and Nevada.
And Nashville too is blowing up. Yeah,
that's a good example of how of the effect. People are kind of. I think people are either going to start really fighting, or giving up, and like they're giving up in California. They're just leaving. They're like, screw this, right. I'm going. I mean, Musk is moving one of the biggest plant. I mean, it's like Coca-Cola leaving Georgia. It's a huge thing.
They don't want him there, apparently. Nobody. Yeah. That's okay. You don't want me, fine.
And that's why states' rights matter. If you look at it, it's obvious. It's a very early form of decentralization in the Constitution, which again is just a figurehead now, so it doesn't really matter now. And frankly, cultism in crypto can be very good, because it can be, hey, I'm behind this project because I love their philosophy, I like the team, whatever it might be, I like the tech, I like the fact that I've made money on it, whatever it might be. But the problem is that the tribalism that's the negative side, where I'm going to go over and I'm going to spread a bunch of FUD about some project because it's a competitor. Or even some of what we see that is still so far unexposed that I'll bring up, and I'll probably get in trouble over it, which is what Ripple, XRP, SEC, whatever the hell's going on behind the scenes with people being involved with and I think we're probably on opposite sides of this, because I'm not a Ripple fan, but I think that what they're calling out is what I've experienced too, because I started when they started calling stuff out, I'm like, holy shit, our lawyers told us that too, and our lawyers were also tied to those same groups that the lawyers that were that the XRP, that the SEC commissioners were involved with, which is absolutely unethical. And yet I was therefore on the receiving end of disinformation from my own attorneys. And so it's like, wait a minute. And so there's a whole bunch of really crazy shit going on behind the scenes that is absolutely tribalism, because if Ethereum saw a competitor notable, is that why they went after him? Why are there so many projects that disappeared that no action was ever made? It's like, wait a minute, it's crazy.
I also think that we need to be wary of divide and rule actions within this context too, right? Because ultimately the concepts underlying crypto were created to go after what? The world's biggest, longest lasting imperial shitcoin of the century, right? Of the last 2 centuries, the Fed controlled dollar, right? Ultimately, that is the shitcoin project we should all be being tribal against.
Yes.
And it behooves them and benefits them, the people who want to continue that hegemony when we fight amongst ourselves. And I think that is the real, like when you see somebody talking shit online, do you really know that the laser eyes that they've got on their profile picture were put there because they're believers, or are they somebody paid by somebody who would prefer to see us fight amongst ourselves to pick a fight? We don't know. And when I'm faced with that kind of unknowing, I look at it and I go, it's convenient that you're sowing this discord at a time when we all probably ought to be paying closer attention to what the Federal Reserve Board just decided to do.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends because Bitcoin, I think I would agree, but with the Fed and the dollar, and in fact, it kind of blows my mind that Bitcoiners still price shit with the dollar. If you're a real Bitcoiner and you really want to own that, you should say one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. I don't give a shit how much it's worth in dollars because frankly, it doesn't matter. And I will, if they did that, it'd be a little more.
I've always said that Bitcoin will be worth the most when it goes to zero. Yeah. And nobody gets it, dude. Nobody gets
infinity. I think it's the flip. It's going to be
because
worth
the dollar will be worth
nobody.
zero
I'm like, when it's like, because nobody asks how much is a dollar worth.
Well, nobody will be willing to trade $1 for their Bitcoin, or their Bitcoin for $1. You know,
that's when Bitcoin will be worth the most, because it will have won.
And yet, with massive printing, with a war on its way, instability all over the world, somehow Bitcoin is down. It does not compute. It's like anybody who has any idea worth their salt. Everybody knows Bitcoin's not going away.
Is it?
Everybody knows. What's that? Well,
is it down though, or is the dollar up?
Do you think the dollar is up? Actually,
there's a hidden value behind it, right? Like the one thing crypto doesn't have is a numerary function. We can't convert the value of it into some kind of hidden variable behind the unit number, right?
Big Macs, bro.
The dollar has a nominal arbitrary value, and it has a purchasing power value. Crypto has a purchasing power value. Period. We don't have a numerary function backing any of our tokens, because in order to achieve that, we'd have to have something to reference to besides the dollar.
I think we should use the Big Mac index. Have you heard of the Big Mac index? You know,
we could do Big Mac index. I heard of a neat stable coin that is referencing a number that's the dollar plus the change in CPI.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Plus,
it's like the FMI token or something like that. That's using the CPI plus the dollar.
Assuming CPI is real. It's real, but assuming it's accurate.
It's manipulated.
So it's anchored to inflation. Yeah. Instead of the dollar plus or the dollar in a vacuum. Right.
By the way, I think that Big Macs are fractionalized as well. So I don't think you'd be able to do that. It's all an inflated number. How many billions served? I don't know.
Well, billions and billions. The idea is that, like, theoretically, like, if you have the same ingredients all over the world, it should represent about the same value in different economies.
Unless you're in Russia.
They don't have McDonald's anymore. They have they rebranded it to whatever, right?
Yep. So to wrap with Jacob, I'd say there is too much friendly fire going on, and we are our own solution to that. We need to be more open-minded.
Yeah, people need to stop following the narrative without thinking about it and just saying, "Oh, those guys are evil," because because I think Ethereum is an amazing thing, but I don't think that the founders of Ethereum across the board should be, and maybe they aren't, but if there is any possibility that they colluded with the government authorities to give them a better position over other crypto, then that's evil and wrong.
Anybody who did that.
Yeah, whether it's ETH
or Bitcoin or Ripple or whoever,
which there's
stop
not
it.
There's not self-policing. I think there needs to be self-policing, and I've been part of projects. Divvy is a perfect example, where good community, positive community, and then someone like sold a bunch. This guy sold like a few million. And he was someone that was in from the beginning, and everyone's like, "Oh man, the price is down. What's going on? Who sold all this?" And this guy's like, "Oh, I sold it." First off, why would you say that? But he's in Telegram and he says, "Oh, I sold it. I've been in since like the beginning." He had made like millions, so he took some profits, whether he needed to buy a house or pay his house off or whatever. But he took out like $1 million, and it hit the price, hurt the price. And everybody was like, "You're a piece of shit. You're terrible. You've hurt us all." And it was everyone's attacking the guy. And I'm like, "Look, man, this is crypto. This guy didn't he's not part of the team. He thought it was a good team, thought it was a good idea and a good project, and he put his money at risk. And he got that. That's the whole point.
And he just didn't happen to know about over-the-counter trades that can happen behind the price schema.
Even
right?
people,
like he traded it on a
every
price
project. Whenever anyone's like, "Oh, I love this, and I'm never selling, and I'm like, "Well, then you're a moron. You'll never sell. What's the point? Why did you even buy it if you'll never sell it?"
Well, that was kind of my thing with Divi too for a while. The plan was I'm not going to sell it because I'm just going to have I need the master node locked. I'm not going to sell that. And I was just selling the rewards that came off.
The rewards,
I guess.
But people were attacking this guy. And I'm like, look, man, it's good for him. He did what an investor should do. The fact that he told you guys he did was that's crazy of him. But I think when it comes to these communities, we need to stand up for someone and say, hey, that's wrong. Just like with the police, just like with anything that there's a problem with, the people in that community need to stand up and call out wrongdoing and say, hey, no, that's wrong, dude. Don't do it. And what's really bad is the people that control that tribe, they can kick you out of the group. They can silence you like they, have done famously on Reddit and other places. So there are people that can control the speech and the narrative, even within that tribe, to stop people from improving the situation.
Well, and I think that's a good lead into the next question. Josh O asks, is tribalism holding blockchain back? And I think the question is really well placed. I think the answer is sometimes yes and sometimes no. Like if you are a fiat minimalist and that's the way you define the tribe, then you're probably helping. But if you are a maximalist to the point where you're going out and attacking other people, either external to your tribe or within your tribe for not being pure enough to the ideology, I think that's when you start hurting it. That would be my 2 cents on it. What do you guys think?
I wanted to say I was going to say something about Web3, but I think it fits in here too. Tribalism, in my own experience, just with myself too. Back when I was a bit more tribal about things, cryptocurrency and stuff like that, I would not do some research because it was like, that's some bullshit, and I would turn it off, right? So I think that's definitely one way where tribalism can lead people to not think that they have anything to learn because they're right and stuff. I had an interesting conversation with a guy in Miami when I was down there for that whole week with Bitcoin conference and the others, Monero and all that. And we were just out. A friend of mine had a show down there while I was, so we met up at a local bar and ended up staying up till 1 a.m. Talking to this guy who was there for the Bitcoin conference. And he was a Web 2 guy. He was a database guy his whole life, and he was a Bitcoiner, and he's talking about Web 3 being bullshit and how it's not needed. And to go against what Sean said a while back about it being 100% about number go up, he actually was trying to argue from an engineering point that it's not necessary, it's useless, it's just a bunch of reinventing the stuff that already exists. And he was saying, well, databases are already auditable. If somebody fakes something, you can audit the database and see the change and yada yada. And I'm like, okay, but what if you throw the database in the ocean? You got a centralized point of truth there.
What if you have an insider that's purposely manipulating the data and has
right? Well, his claim was that can be audited, and every database is auditable, and you can find out that, right?
Right.
And
even if deliberately obtuse, right?
And even if that were true, I don't know, maybe it is, I don't know. But even if that's true, let's assume it is. It's still, there's still other reasons to do Web3, which is, ownership of assets yourself instead of giving it all over to a company and yada yada.
Dude,
and I guess my point
deliberate
is
obtusity, bullshit meter, where they call bullshit on themselves for intentionally not seeing a point that somebody else is making.
Yeah, I just see self-limiting. I see tribalism as self-limiting as well. Is what I was trying to get at.
I see it as a tool for those that are threatened by the technology to use against us, because effectively, yes, maximalism in particular with tribalism. There is some tribalism that, the Greg's right. It is a positive. Like you said, it's almost like a cult, where I love this so much, but where it becomes a problem is if somebody therefore hates all the others and then doesn't research the other things, because frankly, all these projects should be working together. They should actively be competing, but they should be working together where, hey, we don't have this, but you do. That's, we actively seek that out all the time because it's freaking brilliant when you have a project that isn't your own, that does something different, that you can plug in to what you're doing for a customer or for a project. That's amazing. And the fact that it tends to be extremely rare, because that is it's all working together as projects is so rare because there's so much maximalism. And Bitcoin has the brand and it has the first position, but and I'm not saying it will. I don't give a shit about market cap and flipping Bitcoin and all that. Who cares, right? What matters is the utility and whether this technology can get us out of this mess that we're in the world, right? Because that's essentially what it's there for.
Right.
It kind of, who knows how long it'll take.
Tribalism critique that comes from centralized thinking, right? The tribalism critique is ultimately decentralization is not a be all end all, but it's really great. It's a really fantastic force when you start talking about top down solutions versus bottom up solutions, right?
Yep.
In a federated market economy where you can have multiple collections of sort of semi top down solutions. That's what a company is. It's like a top down solution that's targeted at a decentralized problem, right? Like Dragonchain is a centralized entity itself as a company, but it's a decentralized idea, right? You're coming at a decentralized problem from a decentralized perspective, but you centrally manage it as a team, right? I mean, DAOs are ultimately a decentralized way to centralize, and there's sort of this weird disconnect that you get when people want to take the terms too literally, and when
they don't understand the engineering
and try to have self-organizing systems chaotically emerge as the only structure we have at all, period. That doesn't work, right? And the kind of tribalism that promotes that is dangerous, but the kind of tribalism that says, look, we don't want a one solution enforced by the Federal Reserve or by a political party or by somebody who wants to censor social media to say that this one idea is the only idea that's good. Like decentralization of ideas is the most important thing that we can focus on as not being tribal about. I think.
I think to answer the question, I would say yes. I think it's definitely holding back development. I think for a few reasons. One, like Dave said, that if you're behind and you're tribal about this project that does this thing, and you hear about this other project which is doing that better, you'll dismiss it, you won't support it, you won't look into it, and it could fail without the support, even though it's a better alternative. It won't get any support because of tribalism. And on the development side, I've seen a lot of times where either VCs and people with money won't invest in something just because, like, oh no, we'll have to deal with that. We'll have to deal with those people. We're going to get attacked by those. It's just too much to. I don't want to be. I'm not going to. And developers like, I don't even want to try to mess with it because we're going to have to deal with these people, and we're going to have to do this, and that right there is slowing development.
Right.
And but which is, I think, the goal of what tribalism is. It's becoming a force and exerting its force to quell any competition,
right?
Which is terrible. But if you can change the word tribalism to any ism, and it's terrible. Whether it's racism, sexism, it's all one group of people saying that they're better than some other group for whatever reason, and then
Right.
trying to stifle the other group.
Right, but then there are beautiful tribes like universalism, like agnosticism, like free market capitalism. These forces
I was going to say like
move the world broadly in a way
Almost the
that
other-
suggests tolerance as the only goal.
yeah, the other side of that is kind of like interoperable tribalism. I was talking.
Can I?
Yeah, sure. What's up?
I'm sorry. Can I say one thing before we go to next? That the odd thing about it holding it back is the very people that are so focused on the number go up are blind to the fact that if they could get past that one thing and get into the utility, the number will fucking go up. That Bitcoin, in my opinion, even with all of its faults, is radically undervalued. I would say Bitcoin Cash, radically undervalued. I would say Monero, radically undervalued. I would say probably
Litecoin, man.
even
Litecoin,
even the
radically
coins that I
undervalued.
do not like myself for whatever technical or personal reason is I would across the board say they're radically undervalued because people are only looking at that. And the people that should be using this technology, all they see from the press, all they see from our own industry's press is number go up bullshit. And so whenever you go talk to them, and I tell you this, whenever you go talk to them about, maybe they are asking about a certain thing and you go in, it is the hardest thing to get them past that. It's becoming easier over time, but it was almost an impossibility 3 years ago to go and talk to one of these groups and say, no, you shouldn't be looking at tokenizing assets in your industry. You should be looking at tracking these accounting things and reducing risk in these ways and doing things that are actually meaningful to their business. And they couldn't get past the fact, but you're talking about cryptocurrencies, you're talking about payments, and they're like, no, we're not. And that's just such a weird thing. And I don't know. I think it's a tool. I think tribalism is a tool for.
Yeah, I think that's
stuff,
a really
so.
good point, Joe. And tools are not innately evil or innately good. It's how we use them, right? And I would even go so far as to say tribalism is more of a human impulse that can function as a tool if it's steered the right way. And the question is, are we steering it ourselves or are we being directed?
I am on fire today. He said tribalism holds back development. So as long as it chokes funding of research and development, this equates to the size of the tribe, which is kind of what I was saying. But
totally true.
Put it much more elegant.
And the fact that I've said this for years too, that the reason that Bitcoin is what it is, the reason its network is what it is, and it has the power that it has applied to it, is because the software has given an incentive that is transparent and that you can rely on. I don't have to worry about what my last name is or if I'm the son of a senator. I can run a node and I can get rewards. I can do these things and I will be rewarded. That's so rare in human society on a transparent level that it has led it to become the largest compute concern on earth. And so when you apply that, my whole goal was to try to apply that principle to other things, right? And it's such a weird thing because you would have multi-million-dollar Bitcoin and Ethereum if you asked me if we were focused on the right things. And we
right. Like the Apple tribe should not be screaming about the orange tribe being valueless because people like having apples and oranges, right? Like
there you go.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say, but I think what I was going to say is better kept to the next question anyway. So
yeah. So Earth Dragon asks, is blockchain tribalism going to be a necessary evil for coins and communities to ultimately succeed?
Can I start that one out? Because I think
go ahead.
What I was going to say actually is that like tribes could be cool too, man, and they can be useful and they can be it can be very powerful to apply a bunch of people's that are on the same wavelength, like a DAO is a tribe, right? All of our name is David. Let's have Dave DAO, that kind of thing. Whatever, it could be fun and all that. The interoperability between tribes, the willingness to interoperate and not be the end all be all of that concept that you're trying to achieve is what's important. And I saw this. There's a lot of people out there. More than I feared that there was nobody out there that really wants to work together. But I've been happy to be proven wrong so many times in the past couple of years. And just yesterday,
you're a really nice guy.
Yeah, well, I try to be. I was talking to Flo yesterday, right? We were talking for like an hour after the show. We were just chilling, hanging out. It was 4:20. We had some time to kill, and we were talking about Kanaloa Network, which is his project, and what Kanaloa is doing. I was learning about it, on the spot, kind of, and they're doing a lot of the same things conceptually with that we're trying to do, or that Dragonchain's trying to do, or is doing rather, and a little bit different, but the concept of cross-chain and interoperability without having some sort of wrapped token and not doing it the same way everybody else is doing it, just because that's the way it's done now. And the whole conversation was like, oh man, we're into the same stuff. We should hang out. It wasn't, no, but you should do it on my system. No, but we should do it on your system. It was like, oh no, man, you should make a DIN account, like that's totally build together, So the more people I see that have technically, like a VC might look at it as competing projects or competing products, the more people that are like, yeah, let's compete together though, because we're trying. It's kind of like if you put, if you've got one restaurant and you put another one there, and it's competition. But if you put 5 more there, all of a sudden,
but you're still making food together.
Yeah. But then it becomes like a destination for people because it's all working together, and everything becomes better and more profitable, and people are happier.
And not everybody wants to eat the same thing every damn day, right? Like, sometimes even the difference between McDonald's and Burger King will mean the difference between dinner on Tuesday and dinner on Wednesday, right? Like, if you're a fast foodie like me and you like maximizing the amount of lazy calories you can consume.
Yeah, so collabs can be cool and fun and useful too. I guess that's what I was saying, and I just keep meeting people that are willing to do that, and it inspires me.
Who here is a Chick-fil-A maximalist?
To make it see more on your point, Joe, utility does drive value in crypto, but not price. Price is made or suppressed by tribalism, which you can call it hype, you can call it, but it is tribalism does affect price. And this goes along with what I think it was you, Dave, that said in the beginning of the show, people don't understand wealth. And it's the value versus price. It's wealth versus, money or not money. See, I'm falling into the trap, currency.
Right,
yeah,
so
Joe and I
did get for what you do.
We did an hour on redefining value recently.
I buy precious metals all the time. And my kid's like, Dad, why do you keep buying all of this silver and gold and stuff? I said, because Nick, when the shit hits the fan, like this is how you're going to pay for your food and for, I said, if the internet goes down and there's no crypto, if things are terrible, this will always be there. And, it's like, you're just nuts.
Do you buy lead or silver though, Sean? Are you expecting werewolves or
Dude, ammo is currency in the worst world.
And ammo. I always say that. I would say that precious metals is gold, silver, and lead. You got to make sure that you have all of that.
That's what I always do in video games. Whenever I have a survival game or something, I always end up using ammunition for guns I don't have as currency.
Yep.
So
that's pretty smart. Or I mean, like if you end up in, I'm sure you guys have all played Fallout, right?
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah,
bottle
exactly.
Caps, right?
Those
can be currency.
Yeah. Or caps. That's a good thing, dude. Think about caps. Caps are what money is. That is the perfect lesson when it comes to scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
And money, is caps, like in Fallout.
Yeah, the caps didn't burn up, so that's what we use now.
Right, exactly. And they each represent a time when somebody drank an irradiated sparkling Coca-Cola analog.
Yeah.
This is why I love fiction and science fiction mostly. But I've learned not that I've learned a lot, but I've looked at things in different ways and thought about things differently through fiction. Video games is a very important medium for fiction that people understand so much, mm-hmm. But yeah, so there's thought experiments in video games. There's thought experiments like in Star Trek. Every episode, there's a thought experiment.
Something about tribe versus tribe too, right?
I was in a Star Trek argument the past couple of days with some dude. I don't know, me and a friend of mine, but he's like super weird guy. But you know what I like about the internet is like you can just lie. This guy was like, "You don't know," and I was like, I said, "Look, man, I don't like to talk about this, but my uncle is best friends with Gene Roddenberry, and I used to call him Uncle Gene. It was there for every Christmas, so I know Gene Roddenberry so well. And you're gonna try to disagree with me? Fuck you!" And then my friend's like dying laughing. I'm like, "It's the internet, man. How's he gonna look that up? You can't prove that. I didn't say he was my uncle. He was my uncle's best friend." I was like, "There. That's how you shut people up."
Well, it's a funny point. I think it's salient to the question too, right? Like, tribes are not necessarily an evil or a good, right? They're just sort of a quality of human nature.
Can I bring up something? Because I don't know whether you call it a necessary evil, but it's I don't think it's necessary. I think you can do a lot of things without tribalism. Like I said, affinity to a project, liking a project is good. Yes, if you're in a tribe, it's good. But some of the issues I think is that out there are that I don't know what the number is, but a great deal of the FUD against any project is uninformed. That it is usually a bullshit point made, and I have a little bit of OCD if you haven't noticed, and that when someone posts something in there in chat or something, I always have to think, holy shit, that's obviously wrong, and I shouldn't feed a troll. But it's an interesting thing that I know if somebody comes in later into Telegram and they see that and it's unanswered, and or somebody in the community does their best to answer it, but they don't know all of the details or even how to describe some of the tech behind it, that you have a loss historically for someone reviewing this this information. So I okay, I need to go in and set the record straight. And so you don't know how much ridiculous, and I try to cut back as much as possible on that, but that's the reason that I'm answering trolls as often as I do, and why sometimes people don't like it, because I'll call them out, or I will
trolls
have
are
fun with
loyal
it where I
fans,
can.
man.
But yeah, so anyway,
trolls are really loyal fans.
To the point of the question, evil is very rarely necessary. It really is. Very rarely is.
No.
Yeah. Well, I think it's about, to me to answer the question directly, it's about what kind of ambassador for your tribe are you going to be? What kind of leader within your tribe are you going to be? Are you going to let other people be poor ambassadors without calling them out? Are you going to be a good ambassador? Are you going to use your influence within your tribe to tear down other tribes with similar goals and be self-defeating? These are all questions we have to ask ourselves when we're dealing with the tribes that we call ours. And we get to choose ultimately. And that may come down to your call on what human nature is. Like, is it evil? Is it good? That depends on us. And I think that kind of self-introspection is rare. And the more of that we can see, the less of an evil, this necessary thing that will always be a part of humanity will be. But it's kind of be the change, right? Like, if you want to be a good tribalist, then be a good ambassador and encourage others to be.
And be a good
that would be
cop.
my answer.
Be a good cop in policing your own community and your own tribe. When I'm part of a project and someone asks uncomfortable question that it could be FUD, but it's a real question, and if a moderator takes that, deletes it, I'm like, no, you don't do. First off, that's how FUD gets started, because people saw the question and saw you delete it. I said that has to be answered, and if not, then you create the echo chamber, and then you're doing evil. I think transparency is so important. Did I lose my train of thought? But yeah, I think that I've done reviews of projects where I'm like, hey, I like this, probably I like this, I like that, and then I'll hit like what I don't like, some negative points, and I've had been in communities where people are like, you suck, you're spreading FUD. But I was like, no, what are you talking about? I said I like it, just this and this. And then I've had someone like, hey, that's a good question. Why doesn't the team have anything about the project on their LinkedIn's?
And if it's fundamental, it should be answered. Now,
Yeah.
if it's an opinion, some people will have an opinion. I don't like X because
And I'll make the point. I make the point. Well, a lot of times if it's not on their LinkedIn, it's because they work somewhere where they don't want people to know.
Yeah.
And they would ask, and the team would say, yeah, it's just like you said. We can't. Our job wouldn't allow us to do working on this. As part time as we are. Where we would get in trouble. So, but I mean, I've seen both sides where, there's good communities where people are like, hey, what about this? And then it gets answered. And then some where people are just like blinders. If it's not, this is the greatest thing ever, then you're fudding and you're a piece of shit. And it needs to be balanced.
So you guys, I think we have time. We're getting close to time. Do you guys want to do one more question?
I want to do the Hyperion one too, though. I don't know if we can get through two, if it's possible.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
But what's so anyway? Yeah, don't skip.
I think we talked about. We answered decent crypto.
Yeah, we can count that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Counted and rewarded. We did answer it, just not in the order, basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's get to this like big brain awesome question that Hyperion frequency asks.
Treeks is good too. Wow.
So,
Anyway.
and I'm going to read this as best I can here, and I'm going to try to do it justice because this is philosophical poetry right here. So the question by Hyperion frequency: how can we talk about tribalism without epistemology, psychology, and sociology? How are we quantifying tribalism for crypto and NFTs? Crypto is currently a subculture on the rise into mainstream, especially with Web3 push. If we want to take hold of the issues and dangers of tribalism, we have to have rigorous definitions and teleology. We need concrete purpose and direction led through rational ideology.
I like that. Because I feel like it resonates with what I was kind of complaining about earlier. Is like, are we just here to yell about it, or can we measure it and fix it?
It's not really a question, though, is it? It's kind of.
Well, I think the question is the first two, right? Like, how are we quantifying tribalism for crypto and NFTs? How can we talk about tribalism without epistemology, psychology, and sociology?
The first question mark is a rhetorical, but the second is a question, right? And I think if anybody is ever interested in it, go start a project. Ideally, something real, something that you really want built. Go create it. Make it into crypto. Somehow make it involving crypto. Create a Discord or a Telegram or a DIN layer and start the discussions on it, and see how quickly you learn the true nature of humanity. And the way I look at it, look, I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in Kansas, right? We'd have field mice and stuff. Not until I moved to a bigger city did I understand the way that rats work. And I will tell you that a significant portion of the human population I would map to some of the same culture that rats have, right? They'll freaking eat each other. They don't give a shit. Everything is number go up to them. Everything is me. And I don't know. Anyway, humans and rats, and crypto and tribalism. It's all kind of.
I think epistemology is one we don't think about directly too much, right? Because it's kind of a weird this is a 50-cent $50 word right there that not a lot of people really take into account what it means. So like what does epistemology mean
to you guys with
respect to crypto? Yeah, well, let's look it up. Let's see what a definition says. Let's see what Google calls epistemology. They say epistemology is the theory of knowledge, especially with regard to its methods, validity, and scope. And it is the investigation of what distinguishes justified belief from opinion. So
cognitive science is what I'm seeing. Yeah.
Right. So there's an element of tribalism that is about the definitions we accept as truth versus the definitions we accept as contention. Right. What is contendable versus what is sacrosanct. So what, if anything, is sacrosanct with respect to crypto? Like, what can we not challenge?
we have to be able to challenge everything if you want it to actually, get to the best answer, right? And there'll always be limits. So,
and that might be one tribe's view, right? Like, what other tribal views are out there? What things can you not question in some cases, like decentralization
last question,
in Bitcoin and Ethereum,
we
right?
can hit the last question as well on this: is would true interoperability be the tribalism killer? And I think yes. And to go along with the big question, I think that with mass adoption, real mass adoption, and true interoperability, the size and scope would kill tribalism, because it's stupid. It's like when you realize the fundamental fact that there are no races on the planet. There's just one. There's the human race, and that's it. That the term racism and all racism is really just dumb, because we're all the same race.
It's not. It's at least it's not a very interesting question to ask, right?
People don't want to say, "Oh, I don't like different colored people," because it literally sounds so ridiculous. But to not like another race, that sounds better. So I think when you have true interoperability with real adoption, there is no tribalism. Absolutely makes no sense whatsoever.
If you take that question broader at a societal level too, that's a really fascinating question. Like interoperability among tribes. Is tribal warfare the ultimate tribalism sustainer? Would be the inverse of that question.
That's why the dumbing down of the world. I mean, idiocracy, becoming reality is what's kind of the saddest part, because we can't actually have meaningful discussions with a large majority of the population on some of these things, because it doesn't have anything to do with the Kardashians. And so
people don't get it. They literally just look at you and say, "But Brando, it's what plants crave."
Yeah. Well, and I would say on Shriek's true interoperability. I think true interoperability already exists. I think adoption of true interoperability will be the tribalism killer. It has to be happening for real. I mean, it's coming. It's already possible is the thing. It's already there. Dragonchain, I know, other projects as well. What you work on, Greg, is a key piece to that type of thing. That true interoperability is already there. It's all fucking software. Okay. I will tell you, as an engineer, software can literally do any fucking thing you want it to do.
Right.
If
the interpreter only cares if you got the syntax right.
Right. It can already do it. The question is, will people step up to the plate and say, "Oh, let's do it"? Right. That's all it's necessary. And all the tribalism is the thing that's keeping that from happening. By the way, I just voted up like crazy the Hyperion frequency post, and I voted up all the rest.
One more thing too about Hyperfreak's question. I'm reading about epistemology over here on the side, you guys, and it's making me think. It's interesting because I'm thinking about it in relation to tribalism and in relation to people's fundamental beliefs and knee-jerk reactions and repeating things they've heard and stuff. Check this out, right? About epistemologists. They study the nature, origin, and scope of knowledge. And, it talks about the analysis of the nature of knowledge and the conditions required for a belief to constitute knowledge, such as truth and justification. And sometimes I think that there's beliefs that people do assume as knowledge, but haven't separated, like, if your threshold for a belief to become knowledge is too low, you might just believe a bunch of bullshit that you haven't.
Or
there's people that say things that, like, it says in the Bible, blah blah blah, and you can ask them, "Well, did you read that?" Well, no. It reminds me of I'm old, man. Old wives' tales, and how some of them literally are the worst thing there is. To put butter on a burn is the worst thing you can do. But
maybe fire on a burn is probably worse. But.
Well, yeah. So, but people would do that, and it would keep all the heat in. It was the worst thing for it. Yeah. So, but it was knowledge. passed down in wisdom.
Mhm.
It was an old wives' tale. So yeah, I agree.
Well, and to me, the question about epistemology was answered like, and this comes from my own personal philosophical journey. I never made it past Descartes, right? Like, if we want to call anything knowledge beyond our awareness of the existence of self, then we're going to have to take a leap of faith, right? Everything past that is a leap of faith. And I think that was the ultimate point of Descartes that got missed because they had to sort of bow to the notion of a benevolent creator at the time, right? Like, Descartes did not end up dying in prison because, in part, he made that addition to his argument that we can believe things about the world beyond what we know to be true, which is we exist if we think. And if you go back and challenge that notion, then everything outside of I am an agent in the world that thinks is a belief. And if you come at the world like that, then the question is more about what beliefs do we think are good? And that is a very personal question, and it's one that if you want to be instrumentalist about, and to bring it all back to this crypto thing, we have to decide whether or not our beliefs are going to be exclusionary of some crypto projects or inclusive of all crypto projects, towards an end goal, right? Like, are we going to unify against the existing world order, or are we not? And I think ultimately the question has to come down to we must, because the only way we're going to be able to do this is together. And that would be kind of my 2 cents on the issue. I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that, or if we should go to the close real fast because we're over time.
No, I agree with you there, Greg. Like, are we going to do something about it or not? Like I said earlier, it's become increasingly clear that things are not as we were led to believe they are, and I'm not saying that, I don't know what I'm saying, except that at some point you got to stop complaining about things and do something about it. Otherwise, like, what's it going to do?
Right.
That was me for a long time.
We need to unite the clans, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, just on a personal level, I like to talk about this publicly, and then I'll shut up and we can get on with it. But like, anybody who's caught up in that cycle of just depression and fear and everything is pointless and we can never fix anything and all of that stuff that is especially like when people have been stuck at home for so long the last couple of years, you can get in your own head, but after a while I had to just kind of develop the fortitude to try to take what I know and what I can and whatever skills I have and figure out how to apply that. And maybe what I cannot do, I can find somebody else that's good at that, and maybe they can do it, and we can all eventually have a ragtag team of people that can fix shit. And we can start with the internet, and we can fix the internet, and we can make it, what it was ideally supposed to be in the beginning, that has been co-opted. Everything's just an AOL page, like siloed. Like Facebook's just like the old AOL websites now, that kind of thing. Twitter, whatever, the rest of them. So I would say, yeah. If you're in a slump, get over yourself, and let's go do some cool stuff together that makes things better.
100%. All right. So, Sean, did you have anything to add to that, or should we go to wrap ups?
No, I think that we need to, like y'all were saying, is. But I think we should police our own tribes a little better, and I think we should accept. First, you've got to accept that it's real, and then you have to sweep your own stoop. You have to get your own house in order. You have to, if you see something that's wrong in a community that you're a part of, or if you see an injustice that benefits your way of thinking or your side, it's still an injustice. It's still wrong, and you have to call it out for that.
I think that's very important. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Cool. Well, a great way to end the show, I think, today on that. Let's just quickly go around and get what everybody's up to this week, and we can call it. Sean, you go first.
Nothing. Check me out on YouTube and the Twitters.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Dave, what about you?
Yeah, so I am insane. So I started another show that's not a show. It's Mondays. So I've got 2 shows a week now that are not a show. One of them is today. We have the Din Dao call where anybody can come in and talk about, whether it be, development schedule and where we're headed or how we're handling certain things or the latest LCP, we got new layers. But then Mondays, I'm doing, this started just from a local thing. So there was a help desk for people offline, my offline friends, if they need it. But I'm doing an office hours every Monday morning, 9 a.m. 2 or 3 hours. I'm at my desk anyway. I'm setting up for the week. And it's kind of a, hey, drop me a line if you have any questions about Den, if something's confusing to me, you need me to do a live demo, like that kind of thing. So Den Social has Monday through Thursday now has some sort of live stream every day, which is cool. So check us out over there, catch one of them, and there's usually interesting information or at least someone interesting to talk to. And then check out Coffee with Din on Wednesdays. You never know who I might have on. Sean, I got to get you on next.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
You can't just recommend people. You got to actually come out too. You've been a good friend to the community, Sean. You've been one of the interoperable tribes.
Hell
I
yeah.
am.
The tribe of Sean is
Fringe
universal.
wall.
All right, Joe, what about you, man? You're on mute.
All right, sorry, I was typing. I didn't want to type over Sean. I'm just really busy lately. There are a good few projects that some of them have been spoken about publicly, like the NFT platform. We're working on a couple of things there. There should be really interesting. We're working on a project that is very secret. Very cool. We're working on a couple of contracts that, it's the thing that community tends to is like, well, you guys said this was going to, it's like, guys, I cannot control the other people's actions. I have to, we have to sell them. We have to propose stuff. We have to get a contract signed. We have to wait for their funding to come. We have to wait for banks to move money. Then we can build stuff. And, then they're going to be off to the races and it's going to be beautiful stuff. But, I'm not God. So anyway, working on a ton of stuff.
Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, not getting a lot of sleep, and all different types of things. Going on. Pretty neat stuff though. So exciting, all over the place.
I only know like 5% of what Joe is doing, but I can vouch for that. There's even some of the stuff that I gleaned working on Din, through osmosis is like, oh man, actually, yeah. What Joe said is exactly right. This year's cool, not just for Dragonchain, but like across the board. This year's cool.
There's a lot of cool things. So okay, anyway.
So for my part, Rivet is getting close to the end of the road on the Cardinal cutover. We did have a couple items get spotted by a couple of our favorite platforms and favorite customers that we had to resolve before we did the cutover, but it's actually resulted in something neat that will be shared for the first time here and now. We just have all tests passing on a massive capability that we did not have built into Cardinal, which is Cardinal archives. We are actually going to be able to do archive capabilities for every chain that Cardinal supports going forward once we get this thing implemented. And right now it's feature complete and passing all of the tests. So we just have to do some additional deployment testing, and that will be part of our capability. So that's pretty freaking cool. We're excited about it.
That's awesome.
Otherwise, in the world, I recommend everybody going out and finding on my Twitter page or a Twitter page that has it, the email address of the British Home Office. Send them a note about extraditing Assange and how they shouldn't freaking do it, because this is about to happen. It's probably going to happen. We're probably not going to be able to stop it, but damn well we ought to try. So send them a message. That's like 3 tweets down on my feed, and I know it's on a lot of others right now. But every voice can matter here, and if we can flood that in, we might be able to at least give them some pause. So help out with that if you can. If you can't, no worries. But get ready to go to live in-person protests if he in fact makes it live to the United States. Otherwise, I say, guys, thank you for joining us. Hit that like button, hit that follow button, turn on those notifications, and share the shit out of this, because the more you share, the more everybody who asked these brilliant questions and who showed up today to talk will be rewarded for it. That is the nature of this DAO. That is the nature of this program. And otherwise, you guys have a great week and go out and build something.
Thank you.
The first tap of a conductor's wand. The first rivet in a mile-high tower. The master link at the genesis of a never-ending chain. The moment a single empty canvas meets a singular master stroke. There is no one thing. Because now, there are many. Because soon, there will be more. Because one is ever the beginning. Like the first link in an infinite chain, or the first rivet in the tallest skyscraper. The master stroke is found in the masterpiece. What will you begin?